Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Training, Learning, and Development community. Thanks for joining us today. We are doing a member showcase with Heather Appell, who, has been involved with the TLDC community for a while. She's even been to some of our live events, right? Which is pretty incredible to me. You were at the first one, I believe, right?
I was in San Diego.
Yes, you can actually say that you've been to a TLDC live event. We haven't had one in a couple years, but hopefully that'll change at some point soon. So for everybody that's out there, let's see. We've got a handful of people that are live. We've got Sherry, Avi, Jack, Cheryl, Michelle, Danny is here. Thanks for coming in. We're going to be doing another member showcase, talking to Heather, getting to know Heather more as a person, sort of talk a little bit about her career. And this is just an opportunity for those of you in the community to kind of get to know each other and connect on LinkedIn. In fact, is it okay, Heather, if I just post in your LinkedIn
Absolutely
profile? Here we go. All right. So there you go. There's Heather's link. So I've got 10 questions. We're going to get into this right now. Heather.
Yes.
So instructional design, you've been doing training and development for a really, really, really long time. Has it been 20 years almost?
It's been 20 years. Yeah. Yes.
When was the first time that you heard about instructional design?
So I taught middle school for 3 years. So I have a master's in education. So I would say really it was in my master's in education. My teaching program was the first place that I really, it was instructional design back then.
Yeah. Was it something that just immediately you're like, ooh, that's what I want to do?
Yes, it's actually, one of those things where maybe you say things in passing and you forget, but people remember. I met my best friend in that graduate school program, and she reminded me, she's like, don't you remember? You said you wanted to get into corporate training. And I was like, no, I don't remember that. She's like, yeah, you said it in the program. So even then, even when I was, planning on being a classroom teacher, part of me was like, oh, I really want to get into corporate education.
Wow, that is actually I haven't heard that much from folks, that one. So you've kind of been in it from the beginning. That's great. Jack is saying you have to watch out for those teachers.
It's true. So true. Middle school teachers especially.
Yeah. So your favorite part of being an L&D or of being an instructional designer?
It's helping people be successful. Really seeing that light bulb. We hear it a lot because it's true for a lot of us, right? But seeing that light bulb, having somebody learn something new, and then for me, really turning around and seeing them apply it and be successful. And, in corporate training, that is often improved performance on the job, for instance.
Right. No, that one I hear from a lot of folks. And I think that is one of the reasons why I love doing these showcases so much, because that's just sort of a core belief amongst folks in this community, and can't complain about that. It's just I feel like I'm around the right people whenever I hear that answer. And so for ServiceNow, what kind of projects are you working on?
Yeah, absolutely. So about 4 months ago now, I shifted teams within ServiceNow. I'm still in ServiceNow, but I shifted to what we call our expert programs team. And this is an externally facing team primarily. And what it does is, our customer training. And so what it does is it really focuses on the pinnacle of our ecosystem, if you will. And what that means for people not like in software technology is, the most skilled, most knowledgeable folks who ServiceNow is a software, so who can architect that software with other systems so that it works the way that the customer wants it to work. It achieves the business objectives that they want it to achieve. And for those of you who aren't familiar with ServiceNow, it is a software, but we also call it the platform of platforms. And so at its core, it's a workflow software. But, think about how many, just as a consumer, how many different workflows you do in a day, whether you're ordering on Amazon or watching Netflix, or whatever. ServiceNow actually brings all of those different systems together. So for instance, Disney Plus uses ServiceNow platform to handle all of their customer tickets. So if you're having issues with Disney Plus, you go to the website, you type in your issue. That platform is actually ServiceNow.
Wow. So, okay. Now this expert programs thing that you're doing, what are you building it, or you're
So yeah,
pushing it
it's a
out?
good question. So currently we have 2 programs. We have one called Certified Master Architect and one called Certified Technical Architect. And Certified Master Architect's been around for about 3 years. And Certified Technical Architect, we are literally finishing our pilot program right now. And the really exciting thing about these programs, in addition to, just it really being kind of an elite certification, is that they both take place over long periods of time. The Certified Master Architect, or CMA program, is 6 months. And the Certified Technical Architect program, CTA, is 3 months. And they're both collaborative, cohort-based learning in a flipped classroom model. So for those learning and development geeks out there, like me, it's a really great opportunity to be creative, to play, like, oh, and hey, there was a pandemic. So there is, right? And so we're not meeting in person anymore. How do you make a highly collaborative program when people are literally in different continents, on different continents? So it's been a really interesting project.
Yeah, that sounds like it's really challenging, but at the same time, like for an L&D professional, a very good kind of challenging. It must be a lot of fun for you too.
Exactly. It is. It's really great.
Wow. That's really, really cool. Yeah, and I could see like behind you, you have like some visual aids.
Oh yeah.
You keep those handy as you're going through your day.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how about some things that you would wish you had known when you had started out your career? I mean, honestly, I think I told you this before. I remember, and I say this to other speakers too, I was in the L&D conference business. Like I started out in like 2005, I think, but I just remember people's names because I used to do the badge printing, right? And your last name is in the A's. So of course, especially with the A's, we were always testing A's because that would always be the first batch. And so your name is like kind of stuck in my head. It's like, oh yeah, I had to reprint that one a bunch of times. But so you've been going to conferences and stuff like that forever. Like on the professional development side, like, is that something that you were glad that you have participated in all these years?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I think that's part of what drew me to training. Everybody's heard, find what you love to do and find a way to get paid for it. Like if I could be a professional student and pay my bills, I 100% would. And this is kind of the next closest thing that I've found. Yeah.
So does it is it inspiration that keeps you going? What do you get out of going to live events?
Well, that same passion that I have for seeing the light bulb come off and continuously help people get better, like I'm committed to that. I think that I kind of consider development a mountain with no top. And so, it's the journey. And every time I learn something new, I get to apply it and take it to the next level and just keep setting challenges for myself.
Yeah, I love that. A mountain with no top. It is. You're just constantly you're just climbing and just get used to the climb. That's basically the goal, is just to continue making that ascent, right?
Exactly. And as soon as you get to one top, oh, surprise, there's another. There's that. Now it's time to summit that one.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. So how about a training project that you're especially proud of that you can tell us about, you can share with us, something that you kind of maybe just want to brag about a little bit?
Well, I'm pretty excited. If we talk in 6 months, I think I'll have a different answer because I'm pretty excited. We've just finished this pilot, learned a lot, and so the next iteration of, what we're going to be doing with the collaborative, we're implementing new software to help with the collaboration, actually a couple of tools that we're really excited about. But separate from that, you know what I would say? So previous to ServiceNow, I worked for a company named Avalara, also software as a service, but a different kind. They do transactional tax calculation, sales tax and things like that. And when I started there, it was, again, in charge of customer training. And for Avalara, actually, it's everything from, it's used for major retailers to calculate sales tax on different transactions, to, mom and pop selling widgets on eBay out of their attic or their basement. And so creating a customer learning site that could really used personas to help whoever came to the website identify what information they needed to know, and then gearing it at a level that helped them, whether, they already have a master's in taxation and they just want to know how to run reports, or they don't even understand why, different tax jurisdictions tax different products in different ways, or the same tax jurisdiction, taxes different products in different ways. So,
wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah. So created a really persona-based multimedia, multiple learning styles website to help take customers, identify where they were on the journey, and find the right learning assets to meet their needs.
Wow. How long ago did you do that?
I've been at ServiceNow for 6 years. So that was probably about 7 or 8 years ago.
Wow. Because that, it seems like that same kind of flow, that same type of idea happens a lot in marketing now, and you can learn a lot from that type of thing.
Well, that was I'm really glad you brought that up, because that again was one of the fun parts. I worked really closely with marketing so that we were able to identify and get these, get links into the emails. So we were able to kind of pair up and say, okay, you're getting a marketing email to encourage you to take action of some sort. And with that marketing email, there was associated learning resources that people could link to.
Right. It's that whole sort of customer education piece that you're integrating in there. And I know that on TLDC, we've talked with folks that kind of, delve into that a little bit, but it's great to hear that you've actually had some experience doing that. That's really, really cool. So let me ask you about your being in the industries for as long as you have.
Oh, you're making me feel so old.
I'm just because it is. I mean, it's surprising to me how long I've kind of been around too. So, but I know that I've seen that there's just been a lot of change, especially over the last 10 years, and especially because you've been an event going to events and that type of thing. Is there anything that you found over the course of your career as an educator? You went from middle school to being an instructional designer, but something that was particularly challenging that you had to wrap your head around, that maybe you can share with us, that you were able to kind of overcome and just become proficient at, or just be better at, even though it was hard?
Yeah, the first thing, so two very different things came to mind. And one was I spent several years working for an accounting firm, and I was in charge of the CPE, the continuing professional education. So from a logistical perspective, that one definitely came up. But from a personal perspective, I would say it's presenting to executives. I get very nervous. I get very in my head. And I'm somebody who really likes to be prepared. And many of the executives I need to be prepared, but many of the executives I present to, they just want the high points, right? They want the bullet points, and I want to explain it all. And so really getting clear on what my style is, and getting clear on, it's not about me and it's not about what Heather wants to say. It's really about what do the executives need to know and what's the action that we want them to take based on the information, and being able to craft and deliver a presentation in a way that resonates with them is something that's taken some work.
How'd you figure it out? Did you get a coach? Did you have somebody help you?
I did actually. Took classes, got a coach. I had a really good mentor who was incredibly patient at reviewing my PowerPoint. I'd send it to him with 10 and he'd come back with 3. And I'm like, okay, good. Yeah, help me cut it. So yeah. And that's actually something, you asked earlier what I wish I had known early on. And it's not something I don't think that you can take a class on or whatever, but it's that I don't need to have all the answers. But what I do need to do is be in communication with team, and that teamwork is really the key to success as far as I'm concerned. And so, being willing to be vulnerable, being willing to be open, be like, hey, I know I'm wordy. I know my process is to start with everything and then funnel it down. And would you be willing to help me with that? In this particular case was really helpful.
That's great. So what's your team like now?
It's small. I'm working with 4 incredibly highly experienced individuals. And that's really interesting that you ask. they all come from the field. They all have been involved in ServiceNow as software delivering it, engagement managers, architects, things like that, which is great because that's who we're training. That's who our programs are targeted at.
Mm-hmm.
And we've established my long experience in training and development, come up through the training and development side. And so I got the role, showed up my first day, people were introducing themselves and talk about imposter syndrome. I was like, I don't know any of this. I mean, I know enough to be dangerous, right? But I don't know. I don't know the highly technical things about ServiceNow. And so for about 2 weeks, I was just like, they know so much more than me. Oh my gosh. And it took 2 weeks for me to really, kind of start asking, well, not start, I started on day one, but really to ask questions, start doing a high level assessment and say, hey, what about this? What about that? And they were like, we've never thought of that. I'm like, oh, well, you could do this or that, just pulling out training best practices, things like that. And they were like, oh, yeah. Oh, we're so glad you're here. And so, it took about 2 weeks for us to really see, again, power of teamwork, that while we have different strengths, that all of us working together was really going to bring the program to the next level.
Yeah. I mean, and I know that in this space, in L&D, a lot of folks, I mean, we do talk about imposter syndrome a lot, but I wonder, I mean, do you think that's because trainers tend to have to surround themselves around experts as SMEs anyway? And so maybe that's why sometimes they might not feel like they're as qualified because you're around people that know so much about these specific things that you feel, but then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, my value is completely different than like what these other folks are. And I definitely belong here.
Yes. And it's very interesting just in this conversation. I'm hearing my life, but I'm also connecting dots, right? I said I needed to feel like I knew all the answers right at the beginning. And oh my gosh, the amount of work I would do when I was designing a course that, was not something I was familiar with. And yes, of course, there's an amount of stuff that you need to do, but I really pushed myself to become as expert as the people I was training. And now I get that I don't need to actually. What I bring, which includes building relationships with SMEs and, SME wrangling and really being specific about what we need and pulling that out of them brings just as much, if not more value than me internalizing it all myself and then doing the instructional design.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Let me ask you this one. Jack actually have a question. He has a question in here. And I think what happened was he probably went to your LinkedIn profile and saw that you've worked in a variety of industries, right?
Yeah.
So he's asking, I'd like to know the difference between the different industries that Heather's that you've done work in. Also, what she's found is the biggest challenge for people to learn in their environments. So how about we start with that first part? The different industries you've worked in, some of the differences. Is there anything that you can highlight in particular?
I'll just kind of really quickly go through it. As I said, started as a middle school teacher. And my first corporate training job was with Nordstrom.com. So my expertise there that I really needed to gain was around shoes. I know I am truly an expert in shoes. And then when I left Nordstrom, I did so much design about shoes. And then I went into banking. This is where that imposter syndrome and that starting to figure out how to leverage my non-expert strengths really came in. And I was in banking, training for banking for about 4 years, I think, between the couple of banks. And then I moved into an accounting firm that I mentioned. And then I went to a large aeronautical company. You all my LinkedIn. So then I went to Boeing. You guys, I managed a flight training program for Boeing. Spoiler alert, don't know how to fly. Yeah. So that was the one. That was the one around the breakthrough with the SMEs that I'm not going to learn how to fly before I manage this program. It's just not going to happen. So it's time to learn how to leverage my SMEs really, really effectively. And then after that, I went into technology and have been in technology for the last probably 9 or 10 years. Wow, yeah. So, what I say is obviously very different subjects, right? But human beings learn the way human beings learn. And that's what I know, and that's what I bring, along with project management and team management. But really, that knowledge about humans learn, how they learn, and then flight training, accounting, leadership, technology. Sure, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. So, well, how about this? Just quick, like sort of answer on challenges when you were a trainer over at Nordstrom. Like, what were
Yeah.
like what kind of challenges did that environment sort of pose versus like when you were working in finance?
Yeah. I think again, actually, it's rather common, which is time, right? And then it was kind of time to get people out, away from their jobs. But now that almost seems like a luxury. These days, that almost seems like a luxury. Oh, like I'd like to have that fight back, because it's even harder. To have that split, that split intention when people are doing learning online and not checking their email or their Slacks. So I think really two things: fighting, and that's not the word I want to use, but that's the word that comes to mind. Fighting for the intention, and a way that I found in other organizations and even here, although not these programs, to really help with that is knowledge in the flow of learning. And how do you build that in? So, like the email example I gave earlier, right? Oh, I'm getting this marketing email and it's at a time of need, right? And so now we're building the learning in there rather than needing to go log into a learning management system, see what's been assigned to me, and complete that.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the biggest challenges.
Wow.
And then
How about
application. Building in that time, for people to practice, to reflect, and to get feedback. Because when we talk about how humans learn and how humans improve performance, that's really the key. People need a chance to apply, reflect, and get feedback.
And are you seeing that now still in now that you're working in the tech sector with ServiceNow, that same rule kind of applies? You see that same challenge universally?
I do. And especially technical experts. And that's part of why I like the programs I'm in so much now. But in my last, 5 years at ServiceNow, 6, technical experts especially, oh, just tell me. Well, I will. And I actually want you to practice. And when they do see the return on the investment of time. But sometimes that's a pretty high hurdle for some people.
Wow. Do you still miss the shoes though at Nordstrom?
I miss the shoes. I do. Not that I've worn shoes for the last 18 months. I'm not gonna lie.
Right. No, I think that it's probably kind of amazing as a corporate trainer how much you probably learned about shoes just doing your job, right?
Really did.
Yeah. No, that's great. So let me ask you, I have like a few kind of big questions here. If you weren't an L&D professional, what do you think you would be?
Okay. So in like my fantasy world, I would be a professional poker player.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Wow.
And in the like two paths diverged realistic world, I probably would have been a financial advisor.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Wow. That's really, really interesting. Now I am curious, a little background on the poker player part. There must be some little bit of story there.
I've been playing poker for probably like 15 years now. I've been playing poker regularly for about 15 years now. And I don't have enough time, or I don't make enough time, because I have all the time I have. I don't make enough time right now to really make that jump from good to very good. But, all the time and money, I would study poker, I would play poker, and I would really take on, the mountain with no top as far as poker goes.
Right. That's the first time I've heard that one from anybody. So that is very, very cool, Heather. I'm of course always going to remember that about you now.
Yeah.
So prior to being in middle school,
book things in Vegas. That's may or may not be why I go to conferences.
You're the one that almost signs up to those Vegas events.
For really good professional development and poker.
Other kinds of jobs you worked before you were a middle school teacher. Was there anything that you did that kind of led you on the education path?
Well, my mom was a teacher. So, I
Okay.
grew up with my mom was a teacher, and I was actually, a lifeguard and a swim instructor. So, and a camp counselor, like definitely in the learning world.
Okay, that makes sense. So you started off like pretty much like what was it, straight out of college and just went straight to teaching?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And so Heather, if there's one thing that people should know about you, what is it?
Oh, you should know that I have the sense of humor of a 12-year-old boy. So if somebody, especially in a corporate meeting, says something that can be taken another way, and I start laughing, that is 100%. I am 100% laughing about what you think I'm laughing about.
That is hilarious. That is
Yeah.
hilarious. And plus the poker player part. Oh man, you should be definitely on one of those shows, those poker shows with those guys that are sitting around doing that. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
All right. Now I want to talk to you a little bit about the Women of L&D conference, and I wanted to
Yes.
know why did you want to get involved with that? What was important about that event for you?
Oh, that's a good question. For me, and it's been interesting, for me, in my experience, learning and development has kind of been like HR, where it's an area where there tend to be more women. So when I first saw the conference and I was thinking like women of L&D, I'm like, well, there's a lot of women in L&D.
Yeah.
And then, when I reflected on it, for instance, in my experience, it's not, the challenges aren't within L&D. The challenges are interacting with my stakeholders, interacting with my SMEs, interacting with my audience. And again, just my personal experience, sometimes, being taken seriously, obviously, I tend to not be afraid to laugh and things like that. And sometimes, especially when I've worked around highly technical experts, right, and audiences, I, for instance, feel the need to really bring that back quite a bit because I'm not taken as seriously. So I do think that there are some challenges that women encounter in the larger workspace, outside of L&D, but in their role as L&D professionals.
Right.
And I really liked the idea of coming together in a space to be able to talk about that.
Right, right. No, it was a really fascinating experience, and I thought you had some great contributions to the overall event. But I think the most importantly for me, it was just the fact that we were able to gather everyone together and just kind of talk about these things. You bring together these topics that we had presented, and I see like Toddy Norum is in the audience now, and Lisa Crockett, who are all part of the event. So I wanted to just sort of hear like what you had to say about that one, because that really should be sort of one of my first things whenever I pull together a group of people to put an event together, like wondering what they're why they are inspired to participate in it. And also it seems like you're kind of an event geek too, so I think that's helpful.
Yeah.
So what are your plans now? What are you doing for your professional development coming up for 2021? Are you going to any other events, or where are you going to be?
I haven't decided to go to any events yet, but I just last week, the week before, I took a storytelling class, specifically around change, right? Like, how do you craft stories that really help impact change, and what stories are the most effective to use in the different phases of change and people who are in different phases of change. So personally, I'm really taking that on this year in developing my stories, developing my ability to use stories to help that change.
I love that, Heather, because I feel like that's kind of what really, when I step back and look at this community, the thing that I love about it the most and why I like to do these showcases and talk to people like you is because I want to hear your stories. And I feel like that is what is binding this community together, is just the different stories that are available to all of us. And it just helps us connect versus divide us from one another. So I think that is such a great thing. And it's probably something I should do myself, look into like actually like studying more about story That's great. Thanks. And
Yeah,
is
the
it something that is it something that is a private thing, or is it
I
something
think no, I think we contracted. I mean, it was through work, but
okay.
the company is Illuminate, and based on a book. Well, I don't think the company is based on a book, but I have it right here. Illuminate by Nancy Duarte and Teddy Sanchez.
Okay.
And it even, again, my company sponsored it, but it even came with a journal that helps guide through the storytelling and with prompts and things like that with a corporate aim. So I found it really effective.
That is real. Oh, there we go. Lisa's got that. Yeah, I think that's the one.
Yep, that is the one.
Duarte. Fantastic. Thanks, Lisa. Well, Heather, thanks for spending this 30 minutes with us answering these questions. I hope to see you around. Like, if I have to kind of make a decision about the next live event for TLDC, probably by the end of next month, because it would probably be spring of 2022 if I put one together. But I still sort of want to see like how safe it is, and so don't want to jump into anything that could potentially be a little problematic. So I don't know. Thank you for all your involvement. Thanks for supporting the community, and everyone, thanks for joining us today. We've got another one. We're going to be talking to Anya Hartlib Parson on Thursday, also a member showcase. And also I want to just thank everybody. If you attended last Friday's event, I'm still kind of trying to pull myself together from that one. It was so impactful that my head kind of exploded. So I'm still recovering from last Friday's event, but thanks everybody for attending that. And with that, we'll see you everybody next time. Thanks again, Heather.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.